Welcome to Off the Post. I'm Russ Cohen. The show is powered by Coverall Exteriors. We've got Anthony Mingione. And how are you?
Doing okay, Russell. I'm glad to see you survive a near tornado hit on your street. I'm happy to hear you're with us
Yeah,
here.
we went through the drill. We were in the basement. Not fun with all the pets. And we have Mike Ogello. Mike, how are you?
It was a trade deadline today, but it wasn't the right trade deadline. Actually, we're interested because we're all.
Anthony and I are happy. If you're not happy, that's your problem.
I'm happy.
I would say I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm happy enough as a Met fan.
Happy enough. I think it's probably good.
I'm happy enough. At the end of the day, I think only 6 or 7 teams really have a chance to win it all anyhow, to be honest. But more teams make it, and then they get eliminated quick. And we have our special guest, Ted Starkey from Newsday and also Hockey Hot Stove. Ted, how are you?
I'm good. Staying dry, but I'm still here.
All right. So, Ted, let's talk about Houston possibly getting an NHL team. I looked up the prospective owner, Dan Friedkin, and he's got this deal with Toyota and Houston. And my only thought is, if you could sell $6 billion worth of Toyotas in Houston, that means that they sold a lot of Toyota Tundras, because I don't know what else they're selling to people in Houston. I lived out there, so I kind of have an idea, but I don't know. I do think the city will handle it. I do. When I was there, it was a pretty good sports city. Now it's a lot better. I went back there, and a lot more transplants were there, and it's a better sports city now. Overall, like, they always love certain sports there. But, even the Astros, for when I was there, were suffering because they weren't great. They're good now. That stadium's really good. I've been to that stadium. So
and they're not cheap.
I do think this is has a realistic chance. What you wrote about it. What's your thoughts?
I think, I would say the NHL is probably going to expand by 2 teams. I think, barring something major, I think it's going to be Houston and Atlanta, just because I think their criteria is basically who has $2 billion to give us. I think both are top 10 markets. Obviously, Atlanta's had a checkered past, although Houston's had, they had the arrows in both the World Hockey Association, the International Hockey League, and the American Hockey League. The interesting thing with Houston is going to be the ownership, because I think the previous owner of the Rockets basically wanted him out of the building, and so the Arrows moved to Iowa. The new owner of the Rockets has seemed interested in the NHL team, but the person you were mentioning before, he doesn't own the Toyota Center. So I think, if you're spending $2 billion on a hockey team, eventually you're going to want your own building, because
at some point.
Yeah, you don't make the money off the team. You make the money off everything that goes with the arena. That's the Atlanta bid is basically a copy of the Battery for the Braves in Atlanta. It's basically in Northeast, about 30 miles from downtown, and they want to put shops, restaurants, and all that. So eventually, I would think if this other person gets the NHL in Houston, they can play in the Toyota Center for a while, but eventually they're going to want their own arena. Houston, I think it's a big enough market. I think there's enough of an interest, and obviously, that was one of the places the Coyotes were rumored to move before they were sold to Utah. So I think, barring something spectacular, Austin's been mentioned. New Orleans, I think it's a bit too small.
I don't think Austin can handle it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
New Orleans is not the best sports town for pro sports. It really isn't.
That's Kevin Weeks' pipe dream.
But I think. I was just going to say, I think it's going to be Houston, Atlanta, barring something major with ownership.
I still think Portland has a chance. I hear a little bit about Portland, just a little.
Well, with the Seattle expansion and that sort of northwest,
you're trying to create that whole West Coast, so just have a complete, I-5 linkage basically all the way down, starting from Vancouver all the way down to
Vancouver, Seattle,
LA.
They get a natural rival out of it. Dallas would too.
Well, the thing was with Houston, it's the closest team to the Stars is St. Louis.
So, that's the thing. That was the thing I was going to ask you about, Ted. Is that's to me probably for the Stars, they have to be welcoming this because of the amount of travel that team has to do.
Yeah.
It's just
do
they have basically
travel.
the most mileage of any team in the NHL to have to travel?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the worst. The most time zones for sure.
Oh yeah, and then the closest is Colorado and St. Louis, and neither of those are really they're over 500-mile trips. So, and Dallas is a really good example of how hockey can work in Texas. It's been a really good hockey market since they moved from Minnesota, and I think Houston they like Russ is saying lately they've been supporting their sports teams. The Texans, the Astros, and the Rockets are all in the top 10 in each of their respective leagues.
Yeah.
So I think they would do pretty well, and obviously. I think the big thing, too, with expansion teams, you look at the group of four before this, they had one Stanley Cup in about 100 years of play. If you combine all four of them, obviously Vegas has been in two in a couple of years, and, Seattle hasn't been there yet. But, I mean, obviously.
It's still better than the Canucks. It's still better than the Canucks, so it's all right.
Well, I'm sure the NHL Players Association will love another team in a non-tax state, and Gary Bettman will say, "Oh, it makes no difference." Ted, I'll just say this because I saw this sort of setup in a southwestern city where they built the building in the suburbs next to a big football stadium, next to a development, and nobody went to it because it was in the wrong place. It was in Glendale instead of Scottsdale, and I know that situation because I know people who lived in Scottsdale, and they didn't want a building in Scottsdale. So I think obviously it sounds like it's going to be Houston and Atlanta with the next expansion, but they do want to go back to Arizona. And the only way I think they go back to Arizona is if they don't keep repeating the same mistake that they've done with Ottawa, with Canada building in the middle of nowhere. Have it downtown, have it partnered with the NBA. Then I think it would work. Then I don't think
why would the NBA do that? They probably don't want to do that.
It's Matt Ishbia. If Ishbia is the owner of the Suns and an expansion team in the NHL, like what was it? Greg Smith is in Utah, or is I think that's his name. So I mean, if it's like that, then I think it works, Ted. But if it's a separate owner and renting a building, that's not going to work.
Well, and clearly, what happened with the Coyotes is the Suns wanted nothing to do with that ownership.
Right.
They could have moved downtown back to the original arena they played in. So basically, they said, we don't want you. And basically, I think the Suns did everything to run that ownership out of town.
Yeah.
So I think, eventually the Suns are going to need a new arena. They've had that arena since the 90s.
Right.
Eventually, when they get that arena built, and the Suns can get it built. I mean, the Coyotes could not get an arena built in Arizona because, they're basically surveying a smaller portion of the population of Tempe, and it's like they don't care about hockey. But if the Suns can get it done, then I think the door opens for Phoenix to come back in, and I think Bettman would want that. I mean, it was a terribly run franchise the last couple of years.
As long as
you don't go as long as the NHL did.
Yeah.
In Arizona, unless you really want to be there.
Yes, I mean they wanted it to work. The ownership became just such a. You talk about the arena vote in Tempe was a joke. They did no campaign.
Let me ask this basic question.
As long as you don't have a real estate cheat who's trying to do a scam like Alex Morello, who's he's this close to Boots Del Biagio or John Spano or some of these other NHL owners that turn out to be complete jokes.
I don't know. See, that's true, Mike. But what I'm saying is they can't even agree on what county to put it in. There was an article on January 6th saying Maricopa County is getting close. They're not even close. Nobody's close because no owner is going to build and pay for their own building. And to me, it looks like the big problem in Arizona is actually getting it passed in a vote. Because if it doesn't get passed in a vote, they're never getting a team back.
But it'll never get passed in a vote in Scottsdale. Never, ever, ever. It'll never get passed in Tempe. The only place is, like you said, Ted, replacing the America Worst. Now it's America West, or it used to be America West. Now it's something different. Replacing replacing that old building.
A walking stick, whatever they call it now, right?
Well, please.
Sean Burke Arena.
I mean, the Keller, the Suns are the only way the hockey should come back to Phoenix. If the owner I think the owner wants an NHL team, and they had the clout locally to get an arena built. Whereas, like I said, the Coyotes had two available arenas in Phoenix, and neither one anything to do with that team. So it was basically it'll be up to them. But I think realistically right now it's going to be Atlanta and Houston will be the next two teams. Maybe they'll see. It's hard to think of what the weak link team would be right now. Potentially could move somewhere down the road, but I think it's going to be a couple of years for Phoenix. When the Suns get interested,
I mean, Winnipeg would be that team.
Then they'll probably talk to the NHL about getting a team.
It's Winnipeg. Winnipeg's the weak link team right now.
I mean,
they are.
Maybe. I
mean, look at the attendance. Don't.
I know, Russ. I know, but I don't think the NHL wants to move out of a city twice, especially a Canadian city.
I mean, finances are finances, and if that attendance keeps getting worse, and that owner doesn't want to spend,
they need to win. They need to win.
It could be a problem.
They got to win. They've had a good run this year.
They did.
Ended in the second round again.
But even with the good run, they didn't get attendance. That's the problem.
Ted, let's talk, just to shift the gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you about your second article that you did recently for Hockey Hot Stove about Nick Backstrom. Were you initially, when you first heard the news that Backstrom was going to resume his career, was it a surprise to you at all, or did you expect me? It never, to me, sounded like he was going to be coming back to Washington. So, what was your take on it when it happened, when it was announced?
Did we lose Ted?
I think
he's frozen.
He's frozen, maybe.
Okay, he'll probably
log. I'll answer it first because I sat next to the Swedish trainer of Nick Backstrom once at a Flyers game, and before he came back, and you can go, Ted. I'll just tell you this quick. But before he was trying his comeback, this guy told me he's not going to be able to come back in the NHL. He's just not. So, my feeling is this is the only way he's going to be able to play hockey. I don't know how Ted feels though.
Is this the Pavel of the NHL?
I think, he gave it a shot beginning of that's 2 seasons ago. I had 1.9 games, and this guy's, nearly a point per game player. Came back, he was not the same. And, I think I pointed out he technically could play, and if there was a case ever in the NHL to renegotiate contracts, he would be it. Because the problem is you could not have a guy making $9.2 million who could barely play in the league anymore. And so I think they basically just came to an agreement that, we're going to roll out your contract. You're going to, obviously, had he not been an LTIR the past year, Caps probably would not have been as good as they were because they spent his $9.2 million.
Yes, they did.
And I think, he helped the team in that way. But, he clearly was not the same after his hip injury. I mean, I know Patrick Kane has had some success with the same procedure, but, he wasn't the same. And, it came obvious to everybody. I think it was obvious to him too. But I think he, credit to him, he wanted to keep playing. This is an avenue he could do it. I don't know how he'll do in Sweden, but, he wants to go out on his own terms, and more power to him.
It sounds like he's playing for the love of the game. And the funny thing is, it's like you forget not only Backstrom, but Oshie. They basically had about it was a $15 million coupon on LTIR.
Oh, yeah. Just like, they had a $100 million payroll last year because $15 million of that was all that. Plus, Sonny Milano didn't play most of the year, so they basically were able to get 6 guys they would never have been able to afford. They wouldn't be able to afford Dubois. Bringing him on, even with trading Kemper out to LA. Some of these other guys, and both of those two, they probably could have played, but I think they all realized that they didn't really offer much to the team, particularly the salary they were making. So I think they basically said, well, we're happy. And obviously Oshie hung him up. He said, I'm done, because I know his back was really bothering him. But, Backstrom wanted to play. And, he wouldn't have undergone the surgery had he not wanted to come back anyway.
So I'm going to open this question up. Ted, you could start by answering, but for the whole panel, I'm a little nonplussed at what the Sabres did with Devin Levi, and I'll tell you why. If you wanted to give him a contract that would pretty much ensure he would never play for your organization beyond that contract, you just did it, because they have over $5 million in cap space. They gave him the slightest tweak in salary, and they're just playing the rights game, and they're going to lose that battle. They've lost that battle in the past, and they're going to lose it again in the future, and they better hope UPL can play, because if he can't, they're going to be without a goalie again too, and this is why the Sabres are the Sabres. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I think, they basically gave him an AHL guy contract. We have no confidence in you. I think he's one of the more valuable players. If they want to try to turn the corner, they need him to step up. And we're saying, well, you're going to make minimum. We'll keep you. We'll see. And they haven't done anything significant, like you're saying, in the offseason. So, what can you expect for the Sabres this year? It's more of the same. It's funny, we're talking about the trade deadline. Someone was comparing the Nationals to the Sabres. Yeah. It's, perpetual rebuild. You keep trading guys out, bringing more prospects in, but you end up being, one of the worst teams in the league. And that's what the Sabres are doing.
Well, the problem here is that this decision was made on July 1st when they signed Alex Lyon to a 2-year deal. Yeah. They didn't sign Alex Lyon to go down to Rochester. They signed him to be the backup to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and possibly be a step-in starter if Luukkonen doesn't play well like he did at the end of last year, and they put Reimer and Lindy played Reimer instead. I don't know if it says no confidence, but what it does say is this is a cheap organization who did not decide to, 2 years ago, this guy was the guy. He played 7 games at the end of the season. They said, this is our goalie of the future. And then they played him 4 games at the beginning of the season. He went 1-3, and they said, maybe not. And then by January, he was down in the minors. And then last year, he was down in the minors almost the entire year. And Ted, this year, he's waiver exempt. He's going down to Rochester again. And if he has another great year, Russ is absolutely correct. Because at the end of this 2-year deal, I think he's offer sheet eligible. And you know what? If I'm him, see ya. Because
this is the guy they gave up Sam Reinhart for. It's not like this is not a draft pick. This is a guy you gave a legit NHL player for a guy you're borrowing with the Amerks. And
they're the anchor bar of NHL organizations.
Oh, they're not that bad. But Anthony, this is the thing. And I got this wrong this year when I said, well, he's an RFA, somebody's going to offer sheet him, and he is going to be open to it because of the way his contract was. I think it's a 10.2 for He's not eligible for the offer sheet, and he wasn't eligible for arbitration. So he was stuck. So he had to basically take
because NHL GMs are cowards. That's why they're cowards. I love the start of the offseason. Not to sidetrack or to pontificate here, but how many times do we get into late June and we keep hearing about, oh, this is the year for the offer sheet. Oh, this guy's going to get offer sheeted. This guy, and what happens? Maybe one, and we haven't had any this.
There's no Tony Soprano.
There's no point because now with the cap expanding, it's like they're all cowards now. They just want to sign their own guys. So
what'll happen is some team is desperate for goaltending. They'll make the Sabres an offer, and they'll move him just because there's no room for him.
Right, but then you're going to get him for whatever, and then this is what you got for Sam Reinhart. Congratulations! Once again,
exactly.
They got Levi. Yeah, right. They got Levi in a first, and the first turned out to be Coolidge, so they turned it into something. But the point has to be made. Reinhart told them, "I'm not signing here. Why would anybody right now? The way this organization
there's no palm trees here."
You've got a building, Ted, that Erie County basically said, "I'm done," and walked away from the.
They have Sonic. They have Chick-fil-A.
Okay,
but,
that helps.
I mean, you talk about
it's a great city.
Yeah, it's a hockey center that's been run into the ground just because it's going to be 15 years without the playoffs because they're not meant to play this year.
That's the shame here. It is a great city.
No, I know.
It's a great hockey city, and the biggest organization. I mean, this is the city that had the French Connection, that had Dominic Hasek, that has made 2 Stanley Cups in the last 55 years. Unlike the team
fans are getting apathetic. That's the part that sucks.
Well, yeah, and that's Ted. That's the problem. I mean, the first game in the regular season, the season opener, will sell out. If they lose, if they play 6 of their first 8 games at home, if they lose half of them, that building will be 11,000 people.
Oh yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, the Sabres were the number 1 team in town because the Bills couldn't do anything, and then the roles are completely reversed. I mean, it's the same ownership, but The Bills are now. That's it. Everything
All
else.
the focus is there now.
Yeah,
same ownership, but that other side made better hires and did better things because of the better hires.
Oh yeah, well the Pagulas finally figured out you hire football people for the football team. They haven't figured that out for the hockey side yet.
And they've left them alone. And they've left Brandon Beane and McDermott alone since 2017. And in this instance, I mean, what is it now? 11 general managers and coaches over since the last time they made the playoffs. 11, folks.
I mean, I covered them regularly in 2013, and that was the beginning of the rebuild. And now we're probably on number 4. If you want to kind of go from Eichel to, try to figure out all the different rebuilds they've had, and they're going to have another one because this team
seems like a lighthouse ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I told somebody it's easy to start a rebuild. It's really hard to finish one, and they've never mastered the finishing part. I mean, they're great at starting them, but finishing.
Thing is, they came. I mean, like I keep going back to a few years ago when they came close. They were right at going at it with the Islanders right to the end, and there was some excitement. And then
the Panthers, they lost by a point to the Panthers.
Yeah,
they were tied. They were tied with the Penguins, and they lost by a point to the Panthers.
This is a city that is desperate to see them make the playoffs because they would, it's basically probably the window because you could get in those last 2 spots fairly easily the last couple of years, and I think that window is kind of closed.
Oh no, it's hard now.
Yeah, the conference is getting much better. It's going to be much harder for them to make it.
Ted, what they need is Andy Dalton to sign with somebody in the NHL because he was the one who got
the finale.
He broke the 17-year, so he's got to sign with like Ottawa or something like that to get the Sabres into the playoffs.
Everyone could donate to his foundation. But yeah, no, it's sad because they really, their defense has always been suspect because they have a bunch of puck movers, but not really any guys who can play defense. The goaltending can't take care of the mistakes made in front of them. Obviously Thompson can score, but they really need defense and goaltending the last 82 games, and they're not getting it. And like we were saying, take a shot on Levi. Levi is your ticket to try to make it because we know what UPL is. UPL is decent. He's not getting you the playoffs.
But here's the hilarious thing: with the signing of Connor Timmins, with the signing of Bowen Byram, they have the 5th highest paid defense in the NHL. I think they're good. I think they have good individual pieces, but there's no way on God's green earth you can say that that's the 5th best defense in the NHL.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're all basically the same type of defenseman. They need a guy who stay at home. They can pair with a puck mover, so they can rush the puck without having to worry about giving up a 2-on-1 going the other way.
Yeah, but they just.
Kesselring's the answer, though, isn't he?
But they just gave up their 2nd best scorer to get a stay-at-home right shot defenseman. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like, okay, 1 step forward.
I mean, it's almost like a miniaturized version of back in the day when you wanted to trade William Nylander for a defense.
Yeah, the guy was named Alex Pietrangelo who won a cup. Are you kidding me?
Who's to say Kesselring isn't about to go as Pietrangelo?
Nylander's still standing. That's all I know.
I mean, and the other thing that's great with the Sabres is they also put themselves into cap trouble. They overspend for guys, which means you don't have room when you actually need to improve. Yeah. I mean, they were terrible and a cap team, which is just a double death. Yeah. And they needed a hockey person. Kevin Adams he's a Sabre, but he's not a hockey guy. He's not running the team well. They've tried many different coaches, and it's not the coaching; it's the way the team's set up, and the goals.
Well, it is the coaching too now. It is.
Yeah, well, but I mean overall.
No, I know.
Yeah, but I mean Lindy is obviously they tried to bring someone back from when they actually were a good team. Hey, let's bring them back. It's a big thing,
and that always works out.
Yeah, this
exactly.
is like
almost 20 years in the past. So.
This is like bringing back Marv Levy as the general manager.
Right.
It's like, I mean, and this is the thing.
I mean, Lindy, to his credit, Marv was older, but he probably was still better than Lindy.
Oh, sure. But this is the problem though, is that Lindy is in the final year of his contract. And
is he?
They're not going to. Yes.
No, I know.
They signed. They signed him to a 2-year deal. Now, if they have success, maybe he'll extend. But I don't think
anybody really believe this is it for Lindy, because I'm not sure I believe it.
It's the final year of his contract, Russ. That's
Yeah,
all
I know. Right now it is, and then somehow the Sabres.
Are you saying this is this whole thing was a golden parachute for him?
Yes, he signed the same length of contract that he had with New Jersey before he got fired. So basically, what it was is either I'm going to earn that money coaching, or I'm going to earn that money not coaching. I'll opt for coaching. So yeah, great. And he could think to himself, I can save the franchise that, I won 800 and some odd games. But the problem is they're right now they look like they're beyond saving. And that's the problem.
And I think, there's a bit too much of, he's a former Sabre, let's hire him. I mean,
Oh yeah, I mean, forget that.
Yeah, it's basically
except the ones that are good, Ted. Mike Peca is a very good assistant coach, and he went to Chicago. He was in the Sabres organization, and he decided to go to Chicago instead of the Sabres. Is that a commentary on this? How bad the Sabres
Chris
are?
Drury is a former Sabre. How's he doing as a GM?
You love what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
How about Danny Briere, another former
I've been
Sabre.
very positive.
Yep, you got Danny Briere, and then of course you have Rick Todd. If we're gonna go coaches, who's playing for his old team.
Are the Rangers going to hire Scott Gomez as the assistant GM?
I don't know. They're probably still paying him.
The Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla.
I think they just paid off Bobby Holik. I'm not sure.
Ted, okay, there are going to be a lot of stories for the upcoming year, and obviously we're not even into August, but training camps are 6 weeks away, so we have to talk about something. And in my mind, I think the biggest story of the year is Mitch Marner in Vegas. And now I don't think it'll reach a crescendo until January 23rd when he goes back to Toronto and gets viscerally booed by the fans at Scotiabank Arena. And people keep saying to me, oh, no, Toronto fans won't do that. Bull crap. I'm telling you right now, they will be worse to Mitch Marner than Islander fans were to John Tavares. And in that instance, it wasn't deserved. In this instance, it's deserved.
Well, they didn't buy the 75% off jerseys, so they were all set. but I mean, it'll be Marner. I can see he'll start off well because it's it's a new location, but he's not really a playoff player, which is the regular season won't matter in Vegas. They want to win another Stanley Cup, and if he's great in the regular season, he's what he was in Toronto in the playoffs, then the fans will not be so happy. But it'll be very interesting to see what the reception is. I mean, I was at the Tavares game, and that was something. I remember I was covering it, and we were standing by the glass and hearing everything. It was it was an educational moment. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like in Toronto when he goes back. I mean, obviously there's going to be no love lost, and in a year where most teams kept their players, it says something that Toronto just said, we don't want to sign you back. Most teams.
It was mutual. It was mutual. He didn't want to come back, but the bone of contention will be for a long time will be the fact that he blocked a trade to Carolina. Now I understand his wife was 7 months pregnant at that point. It's like, okay, he's not going to agree to a trade, but he blocked a trade to 30 other teams the previous summer. And the only team he would agree to go to was Vegas, and Vegas wouldn't give up anything for him. So it was, Toronto was screwed at that point. So that's why they'll hate him. There was a sizable portion of Toronto fans in 2009 that booed Matt Sundin, and Matt Sundin was way more popular and accomplished a lot more than Mitch Marner. So it'll be that will be appointment television.
Exactly. Yeah. No, like I was saying that, I was up in Toronto last month, and they had all the Marner stuff 75% off. It still wasn't selling. So you buy a jersey for $50.
I mean, yeah, at this point now, unless you're planning on taking
birdcage liners,
take the name plate off and put Tucker on there, and you got a nice cheap jersey.
I want to bring up a couple other things. There's been some stories out there. Don Waddell loves to talk. We all know that. And so he went back and reminisced about the Adam Fox days. And what's really interesting is sometimes we hear things from sources, and I remember hearing that Carolina was close to keep getting Fox, like he was going to go there. He was really considering it. I don't know. Now Don Waddell's saying that Fox kind of stiffed him and whatever. So maybe he's telling the truth because, I was hearing that at the time and was surprised, but I was hearing it. So I wasn't going to say he was going to go to the Rangers where we all knew that, he's from Jericho, like that he probably liked them. But he must have, Waddell's not a liar, so he must have gotten some sort of indication that there was a chance. And I think it's interesting now that he's bringing it up all these years later.
Or is it, what I would say is I would look at the situation and say, or is Carolina basically being kind of used in this case by the Fox camp in order to get the Rangers to dive in a little bit more than in that respect? So I always, if Waddell's indicating that to me almost like kind of confirms it in some way.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's how I view it.
Yeah,
so you don't get to hear that very often,
Yeah, in Carolina, they're kind of a good version of the Sabres. They churn, but at least they're a decent team. They're going to make
except for the goalie. I mean, everybody gives all this praise to Carolina, and they're like, they've got everything under control. And then it's like, what about the goaltending? What about that?
Yeah, I don't get it. I keep saying, people are buying the Hurricanes for next year. It's like, you still got Freddie Anderson in net. You're not going to be.
Yeah,
Ted,
might buy it. But,
Ted, they're a higher functioning Maple Leafs. Their level is the conference final. They can't get by that. Leafs can't get by the second round.
I mean, they're terrific offense and okay defense, but the goaltending is awful.
Well, and that's where I question first Waddell and then Eric Tulsky. Is you had a defense with Slavin and Pesce and Brady Shea. And, and a couple of, Chatfield's a decent bottom pairing guy. And, maybe you keep Burns another year. And they let Shea go. They let Pesce go. And now you've got Sean Walker and, Orlov is gone. And, I mean, they've
invested in Gostisbehere. But, yeah, they're that's a wonderful transition team. But the minute you start laying the wood on them with the forecheck,
and now you're depending on Keandre Miller to be a top pairing or a second pairing guy. And I don't know, that's where I scratch my head at the way the Carolina Hurricanes have been run. Money wise, great, but the talent evaluation, sometimes I scratch my head.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some of Dmitry Orlov's comments after he went to San Jose, and he just said he didn't know where he fit in. I mean, you'd think he would be a natural fit, a tougher depth guy defenseman, and he looked lost at times in that system.
He did. To be fair, he did, and he's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's a highly specific system. I will say that in terms of if you don't fit, it sticks.
It shows. No, it shows.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Leafs for a minute, because it's like this is the time of the year where the biggest complaint now that Leafs fans have is that the Nick Robertson arbitration is the last one. And it's just so unfair to the Leafs that it's the last one. So now I'm seeing these posts, Mike. Yeah, don't ask me.
Well, stop reading Reddit Leafs. And it's like, come on.
I mean,
I'm seeing it more.
Rust is looking for Leafs material. He'll take anything at this point.
I'm seeing it more than Reddit. I'm seeing worse things. Like I saw one of them write that Treliving's going to make this trade soon. But let's talk about this. Jack Roslovic's still out there. Clearly, the Leafs are not signing him.
I don't know about that.
What are they waiting for, Mike?
Well, okay. First of all, they are waiting for the Leafs are waiting for the arbitration hearing to end the award. Then I think at that point, either they're trading Robertson or they're trading David Kampf or they're trading Jarnkrok. If Roslovic goes someplace else, that may open up. Roslovic is a 22 goal scorer. He's not a bad player. He's not a great player, not a bad player. He can play the wing. If he's probably the only viable center left in this group of, him and Luke Cunnin in terms of free agents. After that, it's training camp invites. And so another team might want a David Kampf. I think the Leafs are sort of waiting for a domino here to move somebody out, to move some salary out. They've got about $3 million in cap space, and I don't think they want to waste all their money, and not waste, but spend what's remaining of it on Roslovic.
So this is not going to happen. And so Roslovic is not going to sign anywhere, and he's going to wait until August 4th. Is that
what happened with Vancouver? I thought there was talk that he was in conversation with Vancouver.
Yeah, there were rumors about Vancouver.
I mean, this has been just talk. It's been an unusual offseason because usually after the signings, you have a wave of trades, and it really seems like no one wants to trade. They're pretty happy. And so I think everything is kind of waiting to see if we have this, flurry of trades coming in. It's almost
once you get to a certain point there, it's August. It's right, now exactly. Teams have already told you.
It's not like teams are lined up for Nick Robertson. No offense to him. So it's like
no. But Russ, and
people are off at the cottage. Come on, you know that.
A guy who scored 15 goals, if he's awarded 1.2 million, or they get him signed for 1.2 million, that's not a bad value. I mean,
that's good value. I'm just saying it's odd that, like you said, see, I'm going to go back to what I had said about Roslovic, and he's been a tough fit in certain spots, even though he had a lot of goals last year for him. And he's a decent player at times, and at times he's not a decent player, or at least a 200-foot player. And so, again, this is another reason why I think he's hanging out there, because when would a guy ever hang out there like this when teams have money to spend and he's over a 20-goal scorer? Like, you have to admit, it's pretty odd.
Unless he's waiting for one team that he wants to play for to have the cap space to sign him. And the rumor is he wants 2 years, and maybe teams out there only want to sign him for a year. But Ted, this is the thing that's hilarious about this free agent market. And we're at the end of July. I do not remember ever a training camp invite, a PTO, in July. They usually happen in the second half of August and early September. Connor Sheary is the record breaker. He signed it, I think it was on July 24th. So I don't know if that means anything, whether he's going to sign, but that doesn't happen. And your two best remaining free agents right now are Jack Roslovic and Victor Olofsson. That's bad.
Yeah, another Sabre? No.
Because Netsop wants back in. He's been teasing like where he's going to go. I'm like, come on, you went to Carolina. Speaking of the Canes, and he burned his invite in about 3 months. But yeah, it's. I think with the salary cap rise, teams are pretty happy where they are. Like, usually you have to kind of try to figure out what guys you want to fit in, and you have to get rid of guys. Teams don't really have to do that this year. There's maybe a couple that have had to think about what they want to do, and they may punt till training camp. Maybe someone gets hurt, you could LTIR someone so that to solve your question for you.
Ted, is it a coincidence that he's sort of skating around like Washington? Like, is he trying?
He basically, he says he has no interest in the Caps. I don't think the Caps have any interest in him because, that run 2 years ago was basically addition by subtraction. They got rid of Kuznetsov and Mantha, which are probably the two laziest players on that team. And so despite selling at the deadline, they snuck in the playoffs. And I really don't think, he was interested in playing after that 2018 run. He was basically a passenger for a couple of years, and I think the Caps just got tired of it.
So one last thing. So Frank Saravalli reported that Erik Karlsson would be happy to be traded, but only to a contender. And my question is, how the hell is a contender supposed to afford an $11.5 million player?
Well, he's only 10. He's only 10.
Oh, 10. Sorry.
Russ, it depends on the definition of contender.
Yeah, are they a fringe team? Are they close? Are they a team that needs just one puck rusher?
The team that's been most connected to him is Detroit with their Swedish lineage. But Steve Yzerman is not going to trade for Erik Karlsson.
No, he's not spending that kind of money
unless Kyle Dubas retains 50%, and
he's not doing that either.
Well, Russ, why not? That team is a disaster. That's going to be
this ownership wants to sell. So do you think they're going to retain 50% and tell Mario, hey, by the way, we're going to have to retain 50% on Karlsson. Good luck with that. And Mario's going to be like, F off.
Yeah. And the first thing they do is fire Kyle Dubas.
Yeah.
Well, he's safe right now, Mike. As much as, people may want the other way. He's pure safe. But that's it. But by the way, pro tip, Swedish pancakes are very good, and Trader Joe has good ones. Anyhow, that's it. That's it for Off the Post. Catch everybody next time.
Take care, everybody. Gratis.